The movie opens with Steve. Since childhood, Steve had just one dream: to go inside deep mines and discover hidden treasures. But kids weren't allowed in mines, so his dream always stayed a dream. But Steve was different. He was a very creative kid. He used to build little things out of whatever he found lying around: wires, wood, toys, anything. A real maker at heart. Years passed, and one day, as a grown-up, Steve finally entered a mine to fulfill his childhood dream. He dug deep, and guess what? He actually found something magical: an orb and a glowing earth crystal. Now, here's where things get crazy. As soon as he placed the orb inside the crystal, a portal opened in front of him. Without thinking twice, Steve stepped into it, and boom, he landed in a completely new world. A world made of blocks, a world full of colors, possibilities, and adventure. Steve had entered the overworld, yes, the world of Minecraft. And let me tell you, this world was beautiful. Here, if you could think it, you could make it. Houses, weapons, machines, anything. Steve loved it so much, he decided to stay there and build a dream world for himself. While exploring, Steve met a wolf dog. He named her Dennis. She wasn't just a pet. She became his best friend and his family. One day, Dennis found a weird door deep inside the forest. Curious as ever, Steve followed her, and what he saw shocked him. Another portal. Steve and Dennis stepped through it and landed in a terrifying place, a world called the Nether. This wasn't like the overworld. No beauty, no creativity, just lava, fire, and fear. And ruling over this scary place was Malgosha, the evil piglin queen. She captured both Steve and Dennis and stole the orb from them. Turns out she had been hunting for the orb for years. Why? Because she wanted to use it to destroy the overworld. One night, when everyone was asleep, Steve whispered to Dennis, "You have to save the overworld. Take the orb and run." Dennis ran with all her strength and entered Steve's old, dusty house. There, she hid the orb under the bed. But during the chaos, the crystal got separated from the orb, and as soon as that happened, the portal closed. Steve was now stuck in the Nether. Years passed. Now we enter the 1980s. In a small town, a guy named Garrett was famous for being the champion of a classic arcade game, Hung City. Everyone used to call him the Garbage Man because he could turn junk into genius. But now, life was tough. Garrett ran a tiny video game shop, hardly any customers, bills piling up, and to make things worse, he got a notice to vacate the place. But Garrett didn't give up. He decided to attend a storage auction, where people buy abandoned storage boxes. He heard one of the boxes might contain a legendary old game, Cosmos. Garrett got excited. If he found Cosmos, he could sell it and save his shop. So even though he didn't have much money, he overpaid for the storage unit, just hoping Cosmos was inside. Opened the box in excitement, and it was full of junk. No Cosmos, no treasure, just an old orb and a weird crystal. Disappointed, heartbroken, and broke, Garrett loaded the junk into his car and drove off at full speed, wondering what went wrong. But what he didn't know was that he was holding the very same orb and crystal that once belonged to Steve. And his life was about to change forever. His car's engine just stops working, and he gets so upset that he storms out of the car yelling at the world. But as he's standing there, a girl named Natalie arrives in town with her little brother Henry. They're here to fulfill their mother's last wish. When they get to the city, they meet a real estate agent named Don. who's there to hand over the keys to their new house, provided by the company where Natalie works, a chip manufacturing company. The next day, Henry heads to Garrett's game store before going to school. He's super curious and starts looking through all the cool stuff in the store. Afterward, when he gets to school, something happens in his art class. His teacher asks the students to draw oranges and bananas, like a still life. But Henry's imagination goes wild and he draws a banana with a jetpack. Of course, the teacher tells him he didn't follow the assignment and the other kids start laughing at him. But Henry doesn't give up. He decides to build an actual jetpack and attaches it to a skeleton to test it out. But when a naughty kid cuts a wire on the jetpack, it takes off on its own, flying out of control and crashing into the chip factory. It causes a mess. Later at the game store, Henry is trying to make his jetpack work again, but he feels down and throws his entire notebook into the trash. That's when something strange happens. He finds an orb and a crystal lying around. Curious, he places the orb into the crystal, and that's when it happens. The orb pulls Henry into an old mine. Meanwhile, Natalie is getting worried because Henry's missing. So Don helps track his phone and discovers that Henry has gone to the old mine. They head there together, and as soon as they meet up with him, something magical happens. The orb and crystal activate a portal, and the four of them are pulled right into the overworld, a whole new world full of mystery. They're stunned, looking around, but then something even crazier happens. A villager named Nitwit falls through the portal from the overworld straight to Earth. And then, from the overworld, Dennis, Steve's dog, returns. Far away in the overworld, the piglin queen Malgosia picks up the signal from the orb and knows that it's back. She's looking for it, and so she makes a deal with Steve. If Steve brings the orb to her, she'll spare Dennis's life and free him from captivity. Back in the overworld, Natalie wants to go back home, but suddenly night falls and skeleton monsters appear, attacking them. In the chaos, Henry crashes into a tree and something amazing happens. He discovers how to create things in this new world. Using his creativity, he builds a fort around himself. Natalie, Don, and the others making a wooden wall to protect them from the monsters. In the middle of the chaos, a skeleton monster shoots an arrow at Garrett. The arrow hits and breaks the outer earth crystal, and the portal closes instantly. It's just the beginning of their adventure, and a lot more surprises are coming their way. Stay tuned to find out what happens next in this incredible journey. Oh, and if you'd like to watch the full movie, don't forget to join our Telegram channel. We upload all full-length movies there. Link in description. And please, help us grow by hitting that subscribe button. Your support truly means the world to us. Now, back to the story. Steve suddenly appears and defeats all the monsters. After the battle, he finds out that the Earth crystal has been destroyed, and the portal to Earth is now closed. Luckily, the orb is still safe, but Garrett refuses to give it to Steve. The real problem now is that without the Earth crystal, they can't return to Earth. To open the portal again, they'll need another Earth crystal, which is hidden deep inside the woodland mansion. Steve makes a deal with them. He'll find the crystal and send them back to Earth, but they'll have to give it to him and his people when they do. Everyone agrees, and they start preparing for the journey. First, Steve takes them to a village to gather weapons and supplies for what's ahead. He has his own store there, and he shows Garrett and Henry all the weapons and items he's collected from past battles. While they're there, Garrett finds something cool, a special elder pearl. Steve explains that if you throw it, you'll teleport to wherever it lands. But Garrett, not paying attention, throws it behind him, and before he knows it, he's teleported right back. It's a little chaotic, but Steve helps them get their bearings. Then Steve teaches Henry and Garrett how to craft their own weapons. Henry makes a pressure gun that shocks even Steve with its creativity. But Garrett's mind is on something else. He's more interested in the treasure Steve mentioned hidden deep in the mines. He promises to give Steve the orb in exchange for the treasure. Just as they're getting ready, trouble strikes. Malgosha's soldiers, those nasty piglins, attack the village. The battle gets intense. Amid all the chaos, Natalie and Don get separated from the group. But Steve doesn't waste any time. He takes Henry and Garrett to the village wall and gives them iron wings to help them fly. He points to the hills in the distance and tells them that the woodland mansion lies beyond those hills. All three of them crash into the hill, but in midair they manage to take out a group of piglins in the process. As they recover, Garrett and Henry ask Steve about the piglins. Steve explains that they're soldiers of Malgosha, a cruel ruler who once had her people make fun of her for her creative dancing. This filled her with hatred, and now she wants to destroy all creativity. She needs the orb to destroy the overworld, but Steve needs it to save his dog, Dennis. Meanwhile, back in the overworld, Malgosha is furious that her commander failed to bring the orb. In her rage, she has him killed by her terrifying great hawk. Back with Don and Natalie, they come across a wolf dog. Dawn tosses him a bone, and it looks like they might have made a new friend. As Steve, Henry, and Garrett are making their way out of the woodland mansion, the great hawk, controlled by Malgosha, blows up the wall of the mine where they were hiding. Steve quickly tries to get Henry and Garrett out of there by sending them in a mine cart. After all that chaos, they finally reach the woodland mansion. Steve warns them that the mansion is full of dangers. The first floor is home to axe-wielding murderers known as pleasures. The second floor is full of dark magic wielded by evokers. And the third floor holds the earth crystal, guarded by the mysterious Enderman. Steve warns them not to look into the Enderman's eyes, or they'll be trapped in illusions. Garrett, being the clever one, decides to distract the pleasures by playing music, giving Henry the chance to sneak up to the second floor. But things go wrong when the pleasures spot Henry and start chasing him. Henry runs for his life and reaches the third floor just as Garrett fights off a chicken jockey. He's struggling, but he keeps fighting. On the third floor, Henry finds the earth crystal, but makes the mistake of looking into the Enderman's eyes. This causes him to see visions where everyone around him thinks he's a loser. But Henry doesn't give up. He fights back, kills the Enderman, and finds an Ender Pearl, an item with the power to teleport. With the crystal in hand, they begin to leave. But as they cross a bridge, Malgosha and her army of piglins show up. Malgosha snatches the orb from Henry, leaving them in a dangerous situation. Garrett, determined to help, tries to fight the piglins on his own, but the piglins blast the bridge, and Garrett, Henry, and Steve fall. In the chaos, Henry and Steve lose consciousness, but when Steve wakes up, he finds that Dennis has found them again, bringing Natalie and Don along. Meanwhile, in the overworld, Malgosha activates the orb on the nether portal, causing darkness to spread everywhere and summoning her army. But Henry, Steve, Natalie, and Don aren't backing down. They prepare for the final battle. Henry and Natalie create iron golems to protect them, and they all face off against the piglins. When Malgosia realizes her army has been defeated, she brings in her great hawk to fight. Steve charges at Malgosia, and with the help of the Ender Pearl, Henry teleports straight to the orb. But before he can take it, the great hawk attacks, knocking Henry down. Just as Henry's about to fall, Garrett swoops in to save him, catching him midair. Garrett survived the blast thanks to a piglin air balloon, and now he's fighting back. He destroys the nether portal, closing it and ending the darkness. As the sunlight pours through, all the piglins turn into zombies, and Malgosia loses her power. But she's not done yet. She tries one last attack on Steve, but fails and ends up sacrificing herself. With Malgosia gone and peace restored, Steve hands over his beloved dog Dennis to Don. He decides to stay in this world, but Natalie encourages him to spread his magic to the real world. Steve changes his mind and returns to Earth with the orb. Back on Earth, the group comes together to create something new. They work on a game called Block City, which becomes an instant hit. Steve gives an amazing performance of his song in Garrett's store. As the story wraps up, we see that Natalie quits her job to follow her dreams of opening a portable Z, and Henry, now the coolest kid in school, walks in with his own jetpack, making everyone's favorite student. What's your favorite movie? Tell us in the comments and maybe we'll recap it next. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you later.